Welcome back to our channel, guys. We are Flixu, and we glad to be here. And now we'll be discussing Moon Man, a science fiction movie. The whole human race would be wiped out if a large asteroid named Pi collided with Earth at some point in the near future. Due to this, a massive base was created on the surface of the moon as part of the Moon Shield project, a multinational undertaking. The humans want to use nuclear bombs to destroy the massive asteroid and use the moon to divert any remaining pieces of debris away from Earth. After years of preparation, the people have finally launched the nuclear missiles, and everyone is cheering for their success. The man is rendered speechless once more in the sight of the woman, despite the fact that the main character Dugu is only interested in his commander Xing, who has just returned from the launching mission. When the captain notices this, he reprimands the guy for being unproductive before storming away, forcing Dugu to go to his quarters and consider how to impress the woman like a genuine simp. He is unaware that a number of asteroids are moving toward the base and that the humans have fewer than 30 minutes to evacuate. As soon as Xing notices this, she orders everyone to leave the premises right away. Meanwhile, Dugu is entirely engrossed in his dreams. The workers quickly left the base, boarding the enormous rocket ships, and taking off from the moon. When Dugu finally notices the warning panel and hurries outside to join his teammates, he understands that something is seriously wrong. The man soon realizes that the rockets have all already taken off, leaving only the one being driven by Xing on the ground. Dugu drives like he's in a fast and frantic race as he instantly races towards the airplane and starts to surface drift. The man eventually flies into the air and jumps over a huge hole in the ground, but he crashes onto the wall instead. As the asteroids get closer, Xing is compelled to take out right away, but Dugu finally climbs back to the surface only to discover that everyone else has abandoned him behind. The numerous rocks start to fall upon the moon's surface and start killing everything in their path while the rocket quickly speeds away from it. Dugu notices this and immediately starts running for his life as he tries to get away from the pebbles that are pelting him and producing more explosions than in a Michael Bay film. As he slides across the surface, the man is eventually swept away by the approaching asteroids, and he is fortunate to have managed to survive the blast. Dugu notices a nearby crater and hurries to it for protection, but he is simply thrown aside by another asteroid, which causes him to be knocked unconscious as a result. He is unaware that a more serious danger is hanging over the moon and flying directly toward the blue planet. When the man ultimately awakens, he instantly stands up and makes an attempt to contact Earth while yelling at his teammates for leaving him behind. Before Dugu can vent all of his resentment, he witnesses a massive asteroid strike Earth and result in a massive explosion, which causes him to realize a terrifying truth. This utterly destroys the planet's surface, turns the Earth into a raging ball, and renders Dugu on the moon completely helpless. Eventually, the man is compelled to return to the base as he urgently tries to get in touch with the human race but is unable to do so. Dugu quickly comes to the realization that he is likely the only person left on Earth, which causes him to feel sad as he tries to remember all of his lost friends. Fortunately, the man has enough food to last him until he dies, but he quickly decides to keep acting like a simp as he violently blows open the captain's door to finally enter the woman's room. In the end, this inspires him to finally shave his face, go on a date with his fictional girlfriend, and do some bedtime exercises with a piece of cardboard. The man is unaware that while everyone within the Earth has survived the asteroid, they are all struggling to survive this horrible show. Even worse, the chairman Mr. Sun, who resembles a Walmart X-Men, tells the crowd that they must tell the story of the main character to the rest of the world. He believes that this will offer the human race hope because they are currently being forced to live in appalling conditions that are causing them great hardship. This strategy, however, is very challenging to carry out since Dugu, who has been living like a rodent alongside the piece of paper he now refers to as his girlfriend, is far from being a role model. When the main character finally makes the decision to go get some food, he or she quickly realizes that something is amiss because the packages have already been opened. The man cautiously enters the storage and, upon spotting what appears to be a curvy silhouette, immediately loses all remaining brain cells. When Dugu tries to use his imagination once more, he discovers that it is actually Kong, a gigantic kangaroo who is undoubtedly unhappy to see the human. The main character tries to scare the animal away by holding onto a shovel, but he fails horribly and only makes the kangaroo angrier. As a result, Kong takes control of the weapon and bends it like it's made of paper, leaving the main character so severely injured that even his made-up lover is unable to identify him. Dugu, however, is not ready to give up just yet, so he attempts a fresh tactic by dressing as a female kangaroo and posing like a model on Instagram while applying a variety of filters. The kangaroo is surprisingly fooled by this, as it makes it into a complete simpleton, but what the man didn't expect was for the animal to run right into third base. Due to Dugu's frantic battle, Kong is unable to transform the man into his girlfriend, and as a result, the outfit is ruined. The main character gets kicked across the room as the animal swiftly discovers that everything is a lie. Dugu intends to carry on with the war despite his multiple setbacks and resolves to use all of his resources, including his Gatling gun, to finally defeat his adversaries. The man pulls out the weapon, which fires a flurry of plastic balls at the kangaroo, compelling it to flee the area at once. However, the conflict swiftly escalates as Kong starts to respond, trapping the man and denying him any opportunity to flee. Due to this, Kong kicks the man across the room, and Dugu slaps the beast like an irate ex-wife. The main character ultimately stands up, reloads his toy gun, and rushes the kangaroo for the last fight, only to get smacked around right away. Prior to repeatedly kicking the main character and knocking them both to the ground, Kong swiftly grabs hold of the man and starts hammering him. Fortunately, the man escapes the onslaught unharmed as he slowly tries to stand up. However, he is startled to discover that the communications device is receiving a signal from Earth. As the people from Earth were never able to send him anything at all, this gives the man reason to believe that humanity has survived and gives him reason to be hopeful once more. Dugu eventually musters the motivation to return home as he attempts to show the kangaroo the planet they must visit but is rebuffed by the animal, who instead punches him away. The man ultimately comes up with a strategy after spending more than 200 days stranded on the moon and manages to find a way off the lunar surface. The main character swiftly exits the structure with the enormous kangaroo and explains that Apollo 18's mission actually accomplished the moon landing. The man approaches the rocket and prepares to use it to propel himself into the adjacent space station, where he will use the escape pods to return to Earth. Dugu eventually transports the enormous machine inside his structure and starts to mend all of its damaged components, but he quickly learns that there is a serious flaw in his design. It turns out that the rocket can only support 20 pounds of weight, therefore they must find another form of propulsion. Fortunately, the nuclear weapon prototype is still on the moon, and they need to get it in order to have enough fuel to return home. Dugu leaves right away, following the enormous kangaroo as they make their way across to the research facility on the other side. The Earthlings had seen the man's plot to rescue the bomb as well, but they instantly recognize that it cannot be done. The man's car is entirely solar-powered, but as the sun only shines on the moon's surface for 14 days every lunar cycle, the car can only drive 6,500 kilometers. Given that the research facility is 8,000 kilometers away, Dugu will be stranded and likely die from exposure before the mission is complete. Captain Xing, who noticed that Dugu was facing the other way, believes that the people are mistaken and surmises that the man truly intended to travel in the opposite direction. It soon becomes clear that Dugu genuinely intends to chase after the sunlight because the moon revolves at a rate of only 16 kilometers per hour, which gives him 41 days to get there if he heads in the opposite direction. The main character leaves right away as he actually races against the sun. Nevertheless, the man only gets 4 hours of sleep each night and uses Kong to force him to stay awake in each way that is humanly possible. The man begins hearing the kangaroo talking to him and screams in pain as a result, which makes him start hallucinating as well. The main character eventually makes it to the facility with the nuclear bomb inside after several days of dangerous driving. The man cautiously makes his way down the completely deserted hallway and enters the building. Dugu quickly locates the enormous nuclear warhead hanging from the ceiling and carefully lowers the weapon to the ground. He wasn't prepared for the kangaroo to pretend to be an engineer and start frantically shaking the weapon's controls like he was playing Mortal Kombat. Dugu is compelled to do this before leaving again to return to his home base and lock the animal inside his trunk. The man eventually starts driving through the difficult terrain as he starts playing music to celebrate his achievement, not understanding that the kangaroo has been left behind and the trunk has broken free from the car. When the main character finally pauses for a brief rest and walks outside to check on his canine companion, he notices right once that the entire wagon has disappeared. Due to the fact that he won't have enough time to return for the kangaroo before the sun sets, Dugu is forced to make a very difficult choice. Surprisingly, the man, fully disregarding his own life, rushes back for the animal right away because he cannot bear to see his friend suffer. After some time, the main character arrives at the wagon and opens the door for his pal, who starts licking him like a lost dog. The sun is getting farther away from their car, so the two quickly resume their journey back towards the base while attempting to stay awake. The main character eventually loses all sight of the sun after many days of driving as their chances of survival start to dwindle just like the light. The car is forced into its final hours of battery life, and Dugu has no choice but to turn off the heat to save energy as Kong stares helplessly at the stranger. The car eventually comes to a stop in the middle of nowhere, despite the man's best efforts to defy physics. They are now 55 kilometers from their base, but they only have 3 hours worth of oxygen. The man decides to exit the car because there is nothing else he can do but wait to die and regrets not talking to his crush earlier. The big kangaroo appears to be drawn to the reflections in his mirror, and before the guy can finish thinking about his past, he instantly realizes something significant. This immediately inspires him, prompting him to bust open the car's door and start customizing the tools he already possesses to eventually build a sled that is attached to his animal companion. Dugu starts sliding through the moon's surface while being pushed by his pal as the guy starts focusing his laser beams in front of Kong, which prompts the kangaroo to immediately flee. This enables him to get over the moon very swiftly. As the two eventually approach a massive cliff on the surface, Dugu instructs the kangaroo to jump across without hesitation. The main character lets loose the gas tanks, sending the man across like a superhero as the two are rapidly launched into the air and fly over the enormous abyss. Unaware that a second asteroid is heading his way, Dugu manages to bring the enormous warhead back and lowers it onto his table while celebrating his eventual return to Earth. Sometimes after that, Dugu detects a signal being sent towards the base once more while he considers how to adapt his rocket to return home. But this time he also notices the kangaroo tinkering with the electrical cables, which convinces him that the signals were phony all along. The main character becomes depressed as a result since he thinks he may be the last remaining human. Fortunately, the inhabitants of Earth have also become aware of the protagonist's helplessness and have resolved to work together to demonstrate to him that he is not alone. Dugu stares at the planet and is surprised to see what is happening in front of his eyes as the people all begin to leave and shine their lights toward the moon. Through their collective efforts, humans are able to communicate with the man, demonstrating to him the continued existence of humanity and bringing tears to his eyes. The moment the guy successfully realigns the receivers and is able to see his pals on Earth, including the captain herself, he is overcome with joy. Very quickly, everyone starts cooperating as they try to figure out how to put the rocket back together so that it can transport the main character home. Fortunately, the humans are able to change the propulsion system by using the atomic weapon with the assistance of the entire team. As they start to blast off from the lunar surface, Dugu can start planning for his last homecoming to humanity while they are unaware that the second asteroid is going straight for Earth. The humans all rejoice when the main character finally makes it into orbit, and Dugu succeeds in immediately attaching himself to the space station as well. The captain has learned the horrible news about the second asteroid approaching them as the man starts preparing the ship and launching off into the escape pods. It turns out that the enormous rock was a fragment of the original asteroid that had been shattered. However, the collisions had altered its orbit, and it is now traveling towards Earth. The humans understand that Dugu, who is currently carrying the nuclear weapon, is the only one who can save them, yet, doing so would put the man's life in grave jeopardy. Captain Xing chooses to break the awful news to the main character, but unexpectedly, the man accepts the task right away since he won't let the human species perish once more, even if it means sacrificing himself. As Dugu bids the kangaroo farewell and places the animal in the escape pod, the inhabitants of Earth swiftly retreat into their shelters as they brace themselves for the worst. The man pulls the lever and sends the kangaroo back toward the planet after giving his friend a sincere thank you for helping him get through the tough times. Dugu sobs in sorrow, knowing that this may be the last time he sees his friend, but he has a big duty to accomplish because he's the only one who can save the entire planet. The main figure immediately dives into a group of enormous rocks while urgently attempting to avoid the enormous objects before blasting off towards the asteroids. Dugu keeps moving ahead as the situation worsens. Ultimately, one of the flying bullets hits the ship, sending it spinning erratically through space. The man desperately tries to control the rocket, but it is completely out of control. He breaks open the doors and equalizes the pressure, which allows him to stop the rotation. The man soon realizes that the engine has been totally destroyed when he goes to check on the ship's condition. Due to his lack of options, Dugu chooses to manually launch the bomb against the massive asteroid, but doing so also necessitates the sacrifice of his own life. After unlocking the warhead and aiming the weapon directly at the enormous asteroid that would wipe all humanity, the man eventually exits the building. Dugu charges fearlessly towards the enormous rock, using his jetpack as he does so, while the countless projectiles are slowly destroying his suit. The man eventually makes it to the asteroid, thinking fondly of the captain for the last time, before a tremendous explosion detonates on the enormous rock, completely destroying it. As they look up into the sky and realize they have finally been saved by the main character's sacrifice, the people are able to leave their bunkers quite quickly. Many years later, mankind have succeeded in restoring the Earth's ecosystems, while the enormous kangaroo has settled into Mother Nature. Along with Captain Xing, the people have also made the decision to someday return to the moon, where they will continue to guard and safeguard the planet Earth. Please share your thoughts about this movie in the comments section. Additionally, if you enjoy my videos, please click like and subscribe for more. Next time, I'll see you guys.